Yeah. Okay, it's all yours, Jesus. Hi, I'm Lori Rodriguez, and this is Half Hour Raw. Thy word have I hidden in my heart that I might not sin against you, God. Psalms 119:11. Today, I'm so excited to have my daughter-in-law, Chandler Rodriguez.
Hello.
Such a good name.
Chandler Rodriguez.
And so we're just going to get right into it, and I'm going to ask her some questions,
Yes.
and we're going to talk about women today.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Now, your heart is about women, right?
Yes,
Okay, tell me.
I love women. You know, it's so fun. Sammy and I, what we do for our nonprofit, we go and do gatherings at university campuses, and I got the pleasure and joy and honor to the second day first day we would hold a big just evangelist just gathering, preaching the gospel. Second day we would gather all of the women, and so I got the privilege to just hang out with a bunch of ladies and preach the gospel to women and just really hit on who the Lord has created us to be, and the Lord is really empowering women in this time just to rise in their God-given significance and identity. So, it's been amazing to see what the Lord has done just across America on university campuses, and then we even got to be in England for a little bit and see God just literally catalyze women into who He's called them to be. So
that's so
it's
good.
amazing. I love it. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to see.
That is so good. So I'm going to ask you a question about women. So we have some women in the Bible, and what do you think that Esther, Ruth, Deborah, Priscilla, Mary, Martha's sister, the woman at the well, the woman caught in adultery, what do they all have in common? So when I asked this question, I was thinking, what do they all have in common?
Yes.
And it's like every one of them, the woman at the well, like she's been married all these times, and you know, the world would call her an outcast, or the woman caught in adultery, outcast. Mary was a worshiper at Jesus' feet. Priscilla was a teacher with Paul. She loved to teach the word, and wherever she went, she created a church. You know, Ruth told Naomi, whatever you say, I'll do. Like, so obedient, such an obedient daughter-in-law.
Yes. Oh.
And then we have Deborah, that was a judge. Like, she was a leader, and she told the man, you go and do it, and you'll get the victory over this battle. And he said, I'm not going if you don't go. She goes, okay, I'll get the credit. The women will get the credit. And he goes, I don't care. And then there was Esther, the queen.
Yes.
You know, so we go from a queen that was, she at one point she said, if I die, I die.
Yeah.
Like, she was so willing to just run her life to take care of the Jewish people.
Yes.
So we have the outcast, we have the high caste,
yes,
and everything in between. And like when we were discussing, I'm just saying, like, I think they just have such a passion for life.
That's right.
And then for Jesus. And they were passionate to do the right thing.
That's right.
So even the woman at the well, she's looking, she's searching.
Yes.
And once she's found the Messiah, she went like, I believe you're a prophet.
Yeah, I perceive you're a prophet, sir.
Are you the one that's supposed to be coming? And he says, yes, I am. So, so even though the world would label her an outcast, she was still looking. She was searching. Yep. And I believe that women today, from these women to us today, we're searching. We're seeking to find the purpose and the passion of our life.
That's right.
What do you think about these women?
Oh, it's so beautiful, so good. I'm hit with multiple thoughts. But
throw 'em out, girl.
Yes, I think the main thing that I was hit with just how God has created all of us is that catalyzing life is an identity marker of every woman. Yeah. So you look at every woman in the Bible and like all these stories that you're talking about, and they are all catalyzers. They all went in and catalyzed life. They all went and catalyzed change. From Deborah, who saw Israel just dead at the time and nobody was doing anything, and she was this woman sitting under the palm tree, and literally God called her to go. And so it says, like, village life had ceased, it was dead until I, Deborah, rose as a mother to a nation. And so
wow,
when she rose, she catalyzed life and saw an entire nation set free.
Yeah.
And then I even love it from the woman, at the well.
Yeah.
How she literally, Jesus encounters her, and in a moment she has this reputation for being like that woman. She's had multiple husbands, and I think it talks about in the history of it during the day when she was going, and it's the hottest time of the day.
Yes.
And so she was so like,
she was definitely that outcast because she couldn't come in the morning with the other ladies.
Isolated, just by herself. She has that reputation, but Jesus found that one woman, and literally she just believed in the Lord. She said, "Yes, Jesus, I take you at your word." And he sent her back and literally catalyzed life into an entire village that was known for like death, right?
The Samaritans,
it was the Samaritans. And so I'm just looking at each and every one of these women, into Esther, into being the queen, catalyzing change in a nation. Like, each woman really is, because I like to call it that women, we really are life bearers. We're created to bring life.
Absolutely.
Like, literally we give birth. We're created to give birth, but not only are we created to give birth and life within actually having physical children, but by everything we do, by each and every one of these stories, by every room we walk in, by the words we speak as women, we really are called to catalyze life.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Chandler, she's preaching.
That's good. Yeah.
That was a good preaching. Oh, she's preaching, and I love it. And her and my son, they're so good together. So, Chandler, what do you think Jesus' message is today to women and girls?
Yeah.
What is Jesus? Because every generation, the Holy Spirit begins to speak to what that generation needs. And many times he speaks through a woman. He'll speak to a woman and then through a woman. I remember Catherine Coleman, like he had asked for a man and a man said no, and so he said, well, I'll pick a woman.
Like, all right.
And then she just brought healing and the salvation and the glory of God. And so this is a totally different generation in the 2018. And what do you think God is saying to women and girls? Like he doesn't, he's no,
just to all of us.
Like he doesn't say like, oh, once you reach 20 or once you reach 25 or 30, then you. No, he's speaking to everyone.
That is so right. I think the first thing that's hit me, that is you saying that what we have seen on university campuses is two things. So women right now have the tendency to go two sides. So one side we see a swing of the feminist movement, and so it's the Me Too, it's the women rising up, it's those women marches, it's in which like we love when we promote women, but we see it's like, wow, like we're women, and it's just like, but it's really women rising up out of hurt and injustice and out of anger. So much just anger. And then on the other side we see the swing of women in churches who aren't championed in leadership, and their voices are really kind of just silent, and it's like, stay silent, stay over there, just continue to drink your tea, to do your crafts, even though we love to do crafts, okay?
And our tea.
We love all of that. But that's not just where we belong. Really, the Lord loves women. He created women to make changes, and so it's really, I see the Lord lining women up with their God-given identity and our purpose, and I really do see a rise in women, but it's not a rise and like, wow, this is
women,
we're women. Yes.
Yeah.
It's really a rootedness in the love of Jesus, that women who've encountered the love of Jesus and really rise to give that love away, and that's who we're created to be. So it's so fun. And even when I love that you were saying when you were talking about, it's not just like when women graduate high school or just university, or women when you get married, then you've like, now you've become a woman. It's really God using all women of all ages. And just a quick story of just something that is just so encouraging to me. As we met a woman, she's a university student this year on tour, and when she was 15 years old, she read something in a magazine talking about that somewhere in Africa, we're going to say Uganda just because I can't remember exactly where it is, and Uganda, that they didn't have water. And at a 15-year-old, she was heartbroken. She was
Yeah,
like, oh my gosh, I
wow,
can't
15.
believe it.
Yeah.
And so for her birthday, for her 16th birthday, which is like, you know, the big 16th birthday,
yeah, right.
rather than getting a car, throwing a big sweet 16, she said, I actually want to gather a bunch of people and I want to raise money to see a well happen
Oh,
in
wow.
Africa because
Wow,
my heart
that's
is
neat.
broken for these people. And so she raised all of this money. The local news came to her house. Like,
That's so
this was like
cool.
this big ordeal because she was like, no, I see an injustice here, but actually, like, the Lord is going to use me. He loves me, so I'm going to love other
Yes,
people
that's good.
and see
That's so good, Chandler.
life happen.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, through all of that, she ended up getting to go to Africa through a couple of years later, exactly where
Wow.
she raised this money
Wow.
for. And then when she got there, her heart was broken for children, and she decided to start an orphanage while she was in college.
That's
And
so
you know,
good.
like, just wild. Starts an
Wow.
orphanage, but it's
While
this
in
like
college,
while
so she
in
has to pay for college, and
then
helping
she's
an
going back
orphanage.
and forth. She
Wow.
finishes colleges now.
That's
she's
neat.
going to go there, but it started at 15 years old.
Yeah, so
Like,
there's no respecter of age.
yeah, there's no respecter of
So
age.
it's just the passion. It's the passion that these women had in the Bible
That's
to do
right.
the right thing. And this child, this
Yes,
15-year-old, that she had a
yes.
passion to do the right thing. And I
Yes.
think when we set in our heart, like when the passion comes and we understand, it's like there will be things that will come against us,
Yes.
but that's when that passion has to override the obstacles.
Yes,
Right.
that's so right. It's so right. And what's so unique, I feel like, about the passion of a woman is that it really comes from the way the Lord's made women to have
Yeah.
hearts easily affected, to have
Yeah.
that mama heart.
Yeah.
And so to have a mother's heart, you don't have to be a biological mother or like a
Right.
mother yet.
Right,
But
right.
it's the way the Lord made
Yeah,
us.
he
to-
created us that way.
the 15-year-old, you
Yeah,
know, young
yeah.
lady, but her heart would be so easily affected and tender to really like rise up and say, no, like, I want to love these people.
Right,
And
right.
so that passion really being rooted from a mother's heart.
Exactly. So we say, women, arise.
Yes, we
Arise
need this
into your
time.
proper place.
Yes,
And no
yes.
matter whether, like in the Bible, whether, you know, the woman that was caught in adultery, like her life changed when she encountered
Yes.
Jesus. And the woman at the well, her life changed when she encountered Jesus. And so
Yes.
our whole purpose here on earth and our storybook fairy tale reality of the kingdom of God is really connecting with Jesus, with the Word. The Word is so important because the Word is just speaking Jesus, it's speaking love, it's telling you He loves you. You're a loved child.
That's right.
And loved children behave differently.
That is right.
And so with this girl, it's like she behaved different because, first of all, she knew she was loved.
Yes.
And she saw injustice. And a lot of these women were seeing injustice. Esther saw injustice. Ruth saw injustice with the famine that was going on. And the loss of the whole family of
Yes.
Naomi. And Deborah, she definitely saw injustice when everybody was going in every different direction. She said, no, we got to pull this, we got to
Yes.
rein this back in.
Yes.
And so as women, Chandler and I want to not empower you, because it's not our job to empower you, but we want to have you learn to empower yourself with the passion that God has for you. He's called you for a reason and a purpose.
That's
So
right.
there's something that you can do whether you're 5 or whether you're 80
That's
or 90
right.
and everywhere in between. There's not a certain age that God says, I'm going to call this person. It's a certain time
That's right.
that we hear.
That's
And then
so
we walk
right.
in that passion. And when we walk in the passion, again, this is the thing that I keep hearing is that, like, I've walked in my passion, but then I get obstacles. But obstacles will come, like if you look at these women, every woman had an obstacle.
That's right.
And not just one, many.
Yep.
You know, like for Esther, her obstacle was she had to go before the king. And in that time, if the king did not summon her once she came to the door, to the throne, he could kill her.
Yeah.
And then she's going like, I'm not going to go do that.
Oh.
But then what she said is, her obstacle, she said, if I die, I die. So what passion for her people to say like, hey, you know what, I kind of like my life here.
That's
it's pretty
so
nice right
right.
now.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to give it all up for my people. That was her passion. So don't let obstacles
That's
stop
right.
you
That is so right.
from pushing into your passion. And God will, obstacles will come, but obstacles strengthen. If you go through it, obstacles will strengthen you, and it will build your relationship closer to Jesus.
It is so true. It's so true. It's like God saying He really does use all things for our good and His glory. So nothing goes in vain. Like that always kind of like makes me dumbfounded in the sense of like, whoa, I just totally messed up here and I'm so embarrassed. But God's like, no, Chandler, I'm gonna redeem that. I use all things for your good and His glory. Not my glory. So
absolutely.
it's like, so yes.
That's so good. That's so good. Did you have something you wanted to read, or?
Yeah, I just when you were talking, I just there was a quote. So Lisa Brevier, who is,
love her.
We
love her.
love Lisa. Lisa, if you ever see this, shout out to you.
And the other one,
Christine Kane.
We love you.
We love you, ladies, heroes.
You two women, and like there's others like you, are just so bold.
That's right.
And you speak the truth. You speak it in love, but you're not afraid to speak the truth.
That is
and we
true.
love you guys.
And we learn. You are mothers to us, even in the faith.
Yes.
But something that Lisa says that I think that the Lord also is doing in this generation, in this time, is there is a quote by Matthew Arnold, and it just says, if there ever comes a time when the women of the world come together purely and simply for the benefit of mankind, it will be a force such as the world has never known.
That's good. I believe. Good. I believe that.
And it's just like, again, it's because we all have these like mother hearts.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Just imagine the mother heart
coming together
and all these women, and instead of being angry and hurt and
we know
and in
who we
pain,
are.
we were like so clear, focused in that the love of God is the ultimate.
That is right.
And then moving in that. So women arise.
That's right. That's right.
I love it.
So good. I wanted to ask you, even when you were talking, Maureen, and talking about just obstacles, because someone can be watching this and they're in their 50s or 30s, 20s or younger, and they might be like, oh, but like this obstacle I have to come overcome, and that can be really hard in our minds. It's like that, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Have you ever had a personal time in your life that you feel like you've had to overcome an obstacle, whether it was like a thinking pattern or an actual obstacle, to really like go forward in the call of God over your life?
That's good. So I am Norwegian. Woo, and we are Vikings, and we are strong. And so I am I'm not big opinionated, like I don't have to get my opinion out, but if I'm focused on something, I'm going to go for it. So I'm stubborn, and it can be good or bad.
I get it.
You get that?
I get it.
So I loved co-shepherding with God. So Jesus says in the Old Testament, in Psalms 23, I am your shepherd, you shall not want. And so like God would just make it very clear, okay, you're going to go do this, and then I go, okay, and what we're going to do, and then I would add to it. And that was my obstacle. My obstacle was always, I thought that I had a good idea, and we were going to work together, which God does want to work together with you and with me, but He wants us to be obedient. And so it's not that I was disobedient, it was that I thought I could add a little bit of, and so then my obstacle was I kept falling short. I kept falling short to the goals that I wanted, or the goals that God gave me, because I thought, well, I'm going to do it this way because it'll be better. And I can talk about Raw. Like God told me to do Raw in September, and like He just said half-hour Raw, start Wednesday, and I went like, oh, okay. I thought He said 10, but I haven't ever done 10, so I hope it wasn't. Hope I'm not being disobedient. But so then, in my learning, I just did that. I do Raw, and I don't put any extra in it. I don't put any to try to get more people to listen. I just obediently am doing Raw every Wednesday. And sometimes I feel like, why am I doing this? Like, like I look on YouTube or I look on Facebook, and like I don't have this huge following, but that would be my co-shepherding. Would be like, we got to get more people to follow us.
Like, come on
God, I
Yes.
want people to see you. Not for me, but for God. I want to do this for God. But this time I said, I'm not co-shepherding.
Yep.
I'm not going to care about what I feel about it because I'm doing this for God. And so,
Yeah.
God, you've asked me to do this and you've not asked. So I just, I'm just doing them in obedience every day. So it's an obstacle. So I was just looking at YouTube the other day and I got my first dislike. I got my first thumbs down. I went like, oh. And I went, oh, well, I don't care.
Wow.
But, I mean, there's other obstacles that come our way. You just, like a hurdler, you just have to jump over them. You can't let the obstacles stop you.
That's so good.
Because who is the obstacle?
That's right.
Yeah.
The enemy.
Satan, the enemy. He does not, if you're on the right path, he's going to discourage you. So our encouragement comes from the Word.
Yeah, that's
The Word.
good.
We have to be in the Word. Do you have a time where there's been an obstacle? And
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have obstacles. So
Yes.
what are some obstacles that you have faced and you've overcome?
Yes, that brings me to one of your questions that we were talking about, the failure. Lori was asking me what one of my favorite failures was.
Yes,
And so
yes.
one of those obstacles are failures in my mind. And
Yeah.
it really comes from this like fear of failure. So whenever I do fail or mess up, I would become tormented in my mind. And so for instance, like little like moments. So for me, one of the things that the Lord asked me to do was to speak to women and just get to go and host at gatherings. And I love stuff like that. And there was this one time on our last tour that I just went up, and I'm not kidding, that moment that you're like praying and you don't really know what you're praying about anymore, and you're just going in a circle in your words, and then your face is red, and what are you saying? I don't know what I'm saying.
Somebody bail me out.
Somebody just help me, what's wrong with me? And I get off stage, and I am just tormented in my mind, honestly. I act like nothing's wrong. But in my mind is all I think about. I'm crushed. I'm embarrassed. What am I doing? God, why would you ask me to do something I'm not good at? And even I go home that night and I'm laying in bed and I'm falling asleep and I have like this mini dream about it. And I just like jumped, and Sammy, my husband, shout out to my husband. He asked me, just like, babe, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing. And then for the next 30 minutes, I lay in bed, I'm tossing and I'm turning, and I'm just like tormented. I can't stop thinking about it, how about I messed up in front of everybody. And then I'm like, I'm just gonna go get a shower. Like, it's like 3 in the morning maybe. I'm just taking a shower in the middle of the night. Who knows why?
Yeah, crying.
And I'm crying. I start crying
That's
in the
the
shower.
best place to cry.
I'm crying. Again, I'm tormented. I'm having all of these questions with the Lord. And I get my journal out, and usually my go-to would be like process in my journal and talk about why I'm so upset and how much of a failure I am.
That's so good, Joe.
But
That's good.
it is, but I felt like the Lord asked me to do something different. He said, Chandler, rather than you swirling yourself out into a spiral and continuing to go down, I want you to ask what I'm telling you right now. What am I speaking? So I just got really still, and I just like tuned my ear into heaven, and I just started to ask God, like, what are you saying? And I just started to begin to write, and I was just writing.
Good.
And there were
That's
different
so good.
scriptures the Lord was bringing to me, and one of the things that the Lord spoke to me was like, Chandler, your biggest mess, or any mess you make, or any like quote failures, or any of the, none of that could ever be bigger than God. So could be bigger than God, or bigger than the call of God over my life. And that moment really changed everything for me, because my obstacle really was just this fear of failure, or when I would fail or when I would mess up, I would be tormented by it. But really, God's saying, you're just so much more committed to me than I'm committed to myself.
That's so good.
And
That's
I feel like that could be anyone listening too.
Yes.
Maybe you can relate to something that maybe you feel embarrassed about, something that you really did mess up on. If it was some sort of failure, if it was a job, if it was a marriage, if it was whatever it could be, that God really is so much bigger and is so much more committed to you than you are to your own dreams.
Right. And so for you, to label your obstacle and understand that there's two legs of an obstacle, and one is God sometimes puts it in our way to strengthen us, and then the enemy puts it in our way to trip us. And so just think of that hurdler, that if you jump over it, you're gonna be fine. But sometimes he does knock it down. Even if he does, he still keeps running. And so that's our call to you, is like, know your passion, know that God has a call in your life, and that there will be obstacles, but don't stop.
That's right.
Like, just press on.
That is
like,
so right.
You can't, I mean, because there's nothing greater than being in your passion and walking it, and then not being afraid of man, not doing it your own way, and then whatever you label your passion with, I mean, whatever you label your obstacle with, and then like once you know it's your obstacle and it's from the enemy, then what I do when I see the obstacle is it makes me mad.
Yeah.
Like, I am not gonna let this stop me. My Norwegian stubbornness. But now that's for good, because like when the enemy does that, then I just start going like, God, I love you so much. I praise you. I see this obstacle, but I am not letting it stop me. You are greater.
Come on.
You are greater than any obstacle. Just like David when he saw Goliath, it's like you're God.
Yes.
This Goliath is nothing.
Yep.
And so that's what we want to encourage you with, is like, find your passion.
That's right.
Find the passion that God has put into your heart. He has created you to be creative.
That's right.
He has created you to be passionate and to bring justice to the injustice.
That is right.
And
That's right.
And then know your obstacles. Know that they will come, and when they do, have the strategy. Like God gave her the strategy to be still. And she said she had an ear towards heaven, which is like such a great calling, because it's like, I have my ear to heaven. What are you saying, God?
Yes.
Okay. He brings the strategy to you.
Yep.
And so whatever it is, and I love that, because David inquired of the Lord every time there was a battle. And almost every time, the Lord did something different.
That's right.
So for us to go back to the same thing and not have an ear towards heaven and just do the same thing is foolish. We need to have our ear to heaven and say, God, what do I do this time?
That's right.
Here's my obstacle. What should I do? Just like you were doing the journaling, and then God said, just listen.
Yep, that's so right. And I feel like some people might have questions like, what does it mean to have your ear towards heaven? Or like, how do you hear the voice of God? Like, I sit there and I'm only still tormented with my thoughts. But really, it says you have the mind of Christ in the Word, and it really is. Like, the Bible is a weapon. It is alive, and it is active. You know, and so really, when we say have your ear towards heaven, it's really renewing your mind and being still. And then for me, like, reading the Bible, letting Scripture just wash over you, and that really renews your mind, because that is absolute truth.
Right. That's good. That's good. You preach it.
Oh, that's good.
She's a little preacher.
Well, I need it. My failures.
Okay, so I'm going to continue to ask her some questions. So, what are you better, Chandler, at saying no to, and what approaches has worked for you?
So good. You know, it kind of also goes with expectations. We talked a little bit about expectations, but these expectations are more on the expectations I feel like people might have over me, whether they're real or just in my head. And so almost the fear of man again, of what people thought about me. And so I used to say yes out of fear and what people would think about me, because I wanted to please everybody. And so I would say yes to the expectations of what it would look like to be this crazy awesome wife, the expectation of what it would look like to be this woman of God, and just really being consumed with expectations of what people thought about me. But when the Lord really brought that to light, I realized I no longer want to say yes to the expectations. I just want to say yes to the call of God over my life.
That's good.
And
That's
over
good.
obedience of what you said. So my no became powerful because I had a word from God, and I was like, no thank you, but it was a no out of like, oh, I can't do that, or but it was really saying like
a solid no.
Yeah, solid no,
solid no,
because my yes changed to yes of the call of God over my life, not yes so I could please everybody, yes to be obedient to God.
That's good.
And so when that shift changed, my yes became a yes to to the Lord
Yeah.
in obedience.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And how do you ask better questions?
That's really, it's a great question.
Thank you. I'm asking good questions.
She really is like the best question
Thank
person.
you.
Literally, we have the best conversations because I
We
have the
do.
best mother-in-law who just
Aw,
asks
thank
the
you.
right questions that just literally lets my heart overflow.
Oh, I love that.
I love it. She's the
Mwah.
best. Something I love about our community, we have Brian and Christy Brett who
Yes.
are like our mom and pops over our
Yeah.
community. They're
They've
incredible.
invested in so many people's lives. They're so beautiful.
And one of my favorite things that Brian's taught our whole community is what it means to be an active listener. And so many times as human nature, Lori, just tell me something, just start talking to me about like one of your favorite food.
Okay, so my favorite food is lasagna.
I love lasagna too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my grandmother made like the best lasagna growing.
That's good.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like just
you jumped right in and
you
you didn't really hear what I was saying.
Yes, because you're just so consumed of what your own thoughts are.
Yeah.
And
wow,
how
that's
many
good.
people listening right now, just to yourself, raise your hand if you've ever done this. I'm raising my own hand.
Jump into the conversation, don't let the other person finish.
And you just like
That's
take
good.
it and just run with
Yes.
it. But Brian really taught us to slow down and really listen to what the person is speaking. And it's active listening.
That's good.
And then just continuing, you're talking about lasagna and like, oh, what, like, where did you get that recipe? Do you make it yourself? And then
and stay within that
Yes.
zone of what they're talking about.
Yes.
Right.
And it's just this this balance, a little bit of a dance. If you can relate, be like, I love lasagna too. Tell me more about that. So it's
instead
the
of going
connection.
back into your memory of lasagna,
Yes.
you're building. You're asking that question because you're really listening.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
Good. That's
so
good.
active
So
listening.
active listening. It's important.
Yes.
Don't always have something rolling in your brain ready to say. Truly listen.
Yes.
And sometimes when you're an active listener, though, other people will butt in because everybody wants to talk.
Yes.
So how would you deal with that?
Say, what was the question?
So there's three people. Someone says they love lasagna. The other person's actively listening. The other person is the one that says, oh, I love lasagna. My grandmother, blah, blah, blah. And then the person that was listening to is no longer being listened to because the other person took over.
Totally. I could say Lori probably has this problem often because she's the peacemaker. She is like the ultimate peacemaker. So I feel like a peacemaker would usually have this be in this position to like, oh well, let's
how would we solve this?
how do we solve this right now? You know what? I feel like you just always continue to ask questions. So if you're the one telling me the story and someone comes in and is like, this, I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Well, Lori, what were you saying about what happened to you?
Yeah.
And so you don't
Directing
have to,
it. The active listener is going to direct it back to the person who's
Absolutely,
speaking. That's
absolutely.
Good. That's really
So-
good. I like that. Okay, last question.
Yes.
What do you do when you feel unfocused or overwhelmed?
Yes. You know, I think people have, just based on personality, for me personally, two things. One is something we should all do. The second one is my preference. The thing we should all do is just continue to renew our mind. Renew our minds, just like we talked about earlier, because Satan loves to just trick us with the feelings that just like make us believe, that everything we feel is true, but not everything we feel is true, and and so, but really renewing your mind, getting in the Word, like speaking truth, what is true. One of my other favorite people, her name's Shannon Castile. I heard her talk in a sermon about the lie of feeling overwhelmed. And so she would say, like right before she would go up on stage, she would have her kids and just worshiping God, and she kept saying to herself, like, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed right now. But all of a sudden, like a couple weeks later, the Lord convicted her, and she's like, no, Shannon, like, you're not overwhelmed. Like, I've given you the mind of Christ. You need to renew yourself with the truth, and I've equipped you with the tools you need to walk in your calling.
Right.
And so really, it's like,
He's equipped us.
Yes.
So it's mainly connecting back to the mind of Christ, which is connecting back to the Word, into prayer, and then not letting the enemy overcome us. So then what do you do?
So for me, I love to run. It's like it's a way I release. We have a beautiful path by the beach where we live, and it's just literally to get alone, to get just like be going, to be focused. I can listen to the Bible, I can listen to worship. It's a strength. Sometimes I listen to classical music, but it's just like a release for me, and just to like a moment that I can get still
and refocus on what's important.
Yes.
And what can just go off to the side. Okay, so we have a few minutes. I wonder if you want to give a shout out to anyone, or if there's a word that you would like to say to the Raw audience.
Yes,
I'm
a
not
couple
calling
of
you
things.
Raw. The Raw audience.
The Raw audience. Shout out to my handsome husband, Chandler Rodriguez. I also like to call him my Latin lover.
Oh, whoa. All right. I like it.
Shout out. He's the greatest husband in the whole world.
That's so neat.
Just about almost 9 months into marriage. And marriage is the greatest gift.
Yeah, it really is. If you do it right.
If you do it right.
If you do it right, it's a gift from God.
Yes. He's my person. So
yeah, that's so good.
Shout out to my husband.
All right.
Yes.
And any last word of encouragement?
Yes. To the ladies, I'll just encourage. The last thing I want to say to anyone watching this is that you really have the call of God over your life. Everybody does, and women, you have a specific calling and an identity marker to be a catalyzer of life. And so I just feel like there's an invitation even in this moment that the Lord is going to call each woman who watches this in of like, what is a way you can catalyze life? And by the way you speak, by every room you walk in, by literally volunteering or whatever, there's a passion on your heart. I just believe that the Lord is really going to usher you into catalyzing life in a greater way. So just even be thinking about, God, what are you saying to me in this moment?
And how can I do that?
Yep.
How can I
serve you?
Yeah, that's great. So we want to thank Esther and Ruth and Deborah and Priscilla and Mary and Martha and the woman at the well and the woman caught in adultery. Because they all had a passion for Jesus, for God, and they had a passion for justice. And we want to thank them because they are our sisters and our examples. And I want to thank Chandler for being with me. She's such a little love.
I love this woman.
She speaks truth, and I know that you're blessed today. So may the light of God be on you. May His love surround you. And may you truly go out and understand your calling and your passion and really see how you can be catalytic in changing your world.
That's right.
And we love you.
Love
and
you.
Bless you. And I'm Lori Rodriguez. This is Raw. I'll see you next week.